just gonna come around and say, I don't know how today's gonna go. I'm feeling a little out of sorts. It's lauded, not lauded. Nevada, not Nevada. We showed a picture of Grimace's skeleton. Someone wrote, Grimace wouldn't have a skeleton because he's an eggplant. And I thought, that can't be possible. Even though he is kind of a dick. But it's grosser because I dug into it, and according to a McDonald's manager a few years ago, Grimace is based on a taste bud. And if that's true, Grimace is just a terrible name. Anyway, next time you look at Grimace, he's that. I know you might not see Grimace there, but we did get a little bit closer on a taste bud. I think you see him a little bit better there. I showed a picture yesterday, I guess, of a baby with a goatee and said, this has been, Seth puts a goatee on a baby because the news is so bad, some version of that. Way too many of you jumped out and said, you didn't put a goatee on a baby, graphics did. Don't make them your friends. I see what you're doing, but don't be the teen girl in a 50s movie who starts dating the bad boy to make your parents mad. Just don't do it. Baze and I talked about this after last week's correction. We talked about, and a lot of you were surprised, Timmy never fell down the well in the TV show Lassie, which is weird because I think it's what a lot of us would think was most certainly a thing that happened on the show Lassie. And this is known as the Mandela effect, which is when we believe a thing to be true that didn't actually happen. It was coined in 2009 by a woman who believed that in the 80s, Nelson Mandela had died in jail, and then she realized that a lot of other people shared that memory of a thing that didn't happen. And so a lot of people have made a list of certain things that we get wrong, such as Timmy falling in a well, that are examples of the Mandela effect. Some famous film and TV quotes, for example. The line is not, Luke, I am your father. The line is, no, I am your father. That surprised me, wouldn't you think, based on every piece of comedy you've seen, it's Luke, I am your father? Beam me up, Scotty, never uttered on the show Star Trek. The closest was Scotty, beam me up. Obviously, same point, but I would have put money on the fact that it was beam me up, Scotty. And this shocked me the most of all. I guess on this show, I've never actually said it's time for a closer look. I say, now do a closer look? I don't see why not. Pence, we had a version of Pence getting beamed up. Built-in transitions here in today's corrections. But we had, we said, beam me up, Scotty, and, you know, again, Mandela effect. And we used the effect, the beaming effect from Star Trek Next Generation, which, of course, Scotty wasn't in. He was in the original. So for the person who pointed that out, I am sorry that you're a nerd. We mentioned Doctor Who, and the Doctor Who fans reached out to say, we did a great job. No corrections needed. Thank you. We mentioned Werther's Originals, the caramel hard candy. It's a German company. Was told by, and I'm very happy that we have international viewers. Let me start by that. But sometimes I think they make a correction based on their language, not ours, that the correct way to pronounce Werther's is to, the H is silent and the W is pronounced like a V. So, Werther's. But I'm not going to do that. I would only do that if I was saying, you will give me the name of your network of agents. I recommend you do so by the time I finish this Werther's. You have more than an hour. Conserving. Speaking of Werther's, we talked about how if you shot Werther's out of a gun, it would puncture Kevlar. And someone wrote this. Anything can penetrate Kevlar if it's going fast enough. The speed that a Werther's original would have to go to penetrate Kevlar is 37,908.55 meters per second, or 84,799.011 miles per hour, which is almost 111 times the speed of sound in air. This would make a Werther's original the third fastest man-made object ever, placing it behind a manhole cover, look it up, and before the Voyager 1 deep space probe with more than twice Voyager 1's speed. Sincerely, a jackal with a calculator. A jackal with a calculator, or as we call him, a jaculator. They get off on doing their math problems. I have to correct my own bad manners. Our dear friend, colleague, Jimmy Kimmel, tested positive for COVID, had to miss some shows, came back on Monday, and in the monologue spoke very kindly about how many people reached out, different late night hosts, went so far as to say Stephen Colbert, who does not surprise me, a lovely man, sent him soup. He then went on to say that I did not reach out at all. I've since reached out to apologize, but I'm also gonna fix this soup problem, and I devastated that I didn't think to do that, but we're gonna get it out to our friend. Some yummy soup. Apologies, Jimmy. Get well soon, and get well soon to our friend Stephen Colbert as well. The COVID does seem to want to come for the late night hosts. Milli Vanilli, sore subject, especially for Shoemaker. Used to travel around. You were like a deadhead for Milli Vanilli. After. You started following him after the scandal. They got grit. A lot of people who can't sing don't make it as singers. So anyway, we had a Milli Vanilli reference in the show, and then this was just an accident, but we played the track early before the callback, and I said, you know, that's what happened. That's how they caught Milli Vanilli. They played the track early, and we were playing Blame It on the Rain. So a couple things. Turns out, people remember this, the song was Girl, You Know It's True, and it didn't start early, it skipped. That's how they caught Milli Vanilli. And I think if you've ever watched it, it is, it's crazy because they know in the moment they're screwed. And it went a little bit like this.
Girl, you know it's true, 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 I love you.
A lot of people have been saying, where's Wally? We're not talking about Wally enough, I guess, on the show. And, but we do try to keep an eye out for Wally. We try to answer that question, where's Wally? You might remember HR Gate, where Wally joined a Zoom about HR, behavior in the workplace, and chose to do it in bed, just a tiny little head in the corner of the frame. And we've given him a lot, we've given him a lot of stick about that, and I think it was time to move on. But then Wally was discovered waiting for his COVID test results. I did not take these photos. But I had them sent to me. Wally, once again, just making himself comfortable. Just look at it. If we can zoom in just how happy Wally is. And I was like, what were you on the phone doing? You know what he told me? I was doing my makeup HR. Also, we talked about that Trump would make a hurricane wall in Texas out of Werther's, and people pointed out that if you made a hurricane wall, this is what graphics made for us. A hurricane wall, you would want to make a hurricane wall against the ocean. That's where the hurricane would come from. And instead, what they did is they made like a cage to catch the hurricane and keep it from dissipating and spreading out into other states. So basically, your friends from graphics sentenced Texas to death. All right, I'm not gonna call him anymore. I'm just gonna write Andy and see if he's around. Okay, I'm just gonna do this now. You're around for corrections, but I also wanna read what he texted me last week. Obviously, during corrections, he wrote, "I'm naked, just got out of shower, tell them I got queen bee." And then we finished corrections, and I was leaving, and he wrote again, "Did you tell them?" Very important. And then I wrote, "I did." And he wrote, "But did you couch it in a burn? I'm fine with it either way." And then I wrote, "There was an eye roll, but I did say it like you wrote it," which I did. I read it exactly like that. And he wrote, "And that I was naked? Question mark, question mark, question mark." And I wrote, "Yeah." And then Andy wrote, "Did everyone get boners?" Did everyone get boners? And I wrote, "I'll follow up next week." And he wrote, "Joke's on them if they did. I look like crap." All right. Last thing, you might not hear back from him. I probably should have texted him earlier. So, you know, like I said, I'm out of sorts today. This is very lovely, though. And I think it speaks to kind of best and worst of what we're dealing with our, with this whole, I don't know, this whole thing. Someone wrote, "If there's anyone from the late night team reading this," there was, me. "Seth was supposed to perform in Manchester, New Hampshire right as COVID started," true, "and the show was postponed," also true. "When it was rescheduled like a year and a half later, my best friend that was supposed to go with me the first time couldn't make it. And I asked a friend / coworker who has a really great sense of humor to come with me last minute. He and I are now getting married in July. And it is a direct result of hanging out at the show. Thank you, Seth, for giving me my husband." So lovely. And I just want to say congratulations to you both. This wasn't the right place to write that. Now, we have, of course, good people amongst the jackals who live in the comment section. One of them wrote, "This is lovely. Hope you find all the happiness in the world together." Appropriate. Kind of thing you should say. Another jackal thought, "Oh, they want to know what I think." They wrote, "You're getting married after less than a year of dating." Bro, take it up with me. But leave those people alone. But then there's my favorite kind of people, which is the jackals for the jackals, who wrote, "They're coworkers. They've probably known each other a few years." Mostly, I'm just very happy for them. I'm sorry we don't have Samberg. Hold on. I'm going to try my other one. This person lives in LA. And last week after, because I don't plan ahead, I wrote, "Hey, I called you for corrections, And they said, oh, remember, I'm in LA. I was probably asleep. And I was like, well, we do it at 5. And they said, yeah. We had a lot of fun today. We're going to come back hard next week. And I'm pretty happy about this one. We'll see you next week.